In the small village of Akoko, everyone knew Mama Amara's restaurant. Her food was the best in the village. People came from far and near just to eat her meals. Her papa soup was so good that people would line up even before the restaurant opened. "It tastes like magic," they would say. But some people whispered behind her back. "How does her food taste so special?" asked Neka, the village gossip. "There's something strange about her," said Chike the hunter. Others brushed it off, saying, "Mama Amara is just a good cook." Mama Amara was a kind woman. She had 2 children, Chidalu and Ada, and she worked hard every day to care for them. Many people admired her, but they didn't know her secret. Deep inside, Mama Amara carried a secret so big that if anyone found out, it would shock the entire village. Every morning, Mama Amara's restaurant filled the air with the sweet smell of spices and cooking. The aroma was so strong that it made people's mouths water from the other side of the village. "This food is like no other," said a traveler one day after eating her stew. But not everyone felt the same. Neka, the gossip, couldn't keep quiet. "How can one person cook food that makes people so addicted?" she asked. "There must be something wrong." At night, Mama Amara's children would watch her closely as she prepared the meals. Chidalu, her eldest son, once asked, "Mama, why does everyone love your food so much?" She only smiled and said, "It's because I cook with love." But was that the truth? Deep in her heart, Mama Amara feared that one day her secret would come out. The villagers didn't know it, but something strange was hidden in every part of her food, something they would never imagine. One bright morning, the village market was buzzing with life. Neka stood in the middle of a small crowd, her loud voice cutting through the noise. "Have you ever wondered why Mama Amara's restaurant is always full? Something is not right," she said, her hands on her hips. "What do you mean, Neka?" asked Ikena, the blacksmith. "She must be using something strange in her food," Neka replied, lowering her voice like she was sharing a big secret. "Normal spices can't make people crave food like that." The villagers laughed at first, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Some began to think about it. "It's true," one woman said. "Even when I'm not hungry, her food calls me." Mama Amara didn't know that whispers about her were spreading around the village. All she cared about was keeping her restaurant running and her children fed. But in the shadows, suspicion was growing, and soon it would come knocking at her door. Late at night, when the village was quiet, Mama Amara stood in her small kitchen. Her pots were lined up and the smell of fresh spices filled the air. She looked at a small clay pot hidden on a high shelf. Her hands shook as she reached for it. Inside the pot was her secret, a thick, dark red liquid. It wasn't palm oil, it wasn't a sauce. It was her menstrual blood. Mama Amara mixed a few drops into the soup she was making. As she stirred the pot, her heart raced. "This is the only way to keep them coming," she whispered to herself. Years ago, a mysterious old woman had told her about the power of using her own blood in cooking. "It will make them love your food and never leave your side," the woman had said. At first, Mama Amara was disgusted, but poverty and desperation had driven her to try it. Now, it was her secret weapon, but she knew the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. One evening, Chidalu, Mama Amara's oldest son, couldn't sleep. He was curious about what made his mother's food so special. Quietly, he crept out of his room and tiptoed to the kitchen. From the doorway, he watched as his mother worked. She didn't know he was there. She reached for the small clay pot on the high shelf. Chidalu watched as she opened it and poured a few drops of something dark into the soup. He squinted, trying to see what it was, but Mama Amara quickly put the pot back. "What is that?" Chidalu wondered. "Why does Mama hide it?" He decided not to ask her. Instead, he planned to watch her more closely the next day. His heart was heavy. He loved his mother dearly, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, Chidalu couldn't focus. His mind kept going back to the clay pot. At breakfast, he asked carefully, "Mama, what do you put in your food to make it so tasty?" Mama Amara froze for a moment. but then she smiled. "It's just my special mix of spices, my son. Nothing more," she said. Chidalu nodded, but he didn't believe her. Meanwhile, in the village, the gossip about Mama Amara had grown louder. Some villagers even stopped eating at her restaurant, saying, "What if she's using something unnatural?" Mama Amara noticed the empty seats in her restaurant. She felt a pang of fear but told herself it was only a phase. However, deep inside, she knew her secret might not stay hidden for long. One afternoon, a traveler arrived in the village. He was a tall man with a deep voice and piercing eyes. He introduced himself as Kalu, a herbalist who wandered from village to village. After hearing about Mama Amara's famous food, he decided to visit her restaurant. Kalu ordered a plate of her pepper soup. The moment he tasted it, his brows furrowed. "This is unlike anything I've ever tasted," he said. He finished the meal but didn't leave right away. Instead, he sat in a corner, watching Mama Amara as she cooked. Something about her movement seemed odd to him. She was careful, almost secretive. He noticed the small clay pot she always reached for but never let anyone else touch. Kalu leaned closer to a group of villagers seated nearby. "Do you know what she puts in her food?" he asked quietly. The villagers shook their heads. "No one knows," one of them replied. "But it's strange how everyone gets addicted to her meals." Kalu's curiosity deepened. "I must find out," he thought to himself. That night, Mama Amara sat in her small room, her hands trembling. She could feel the eyes of the villagers on her even when she wasn't in the restaurant. "They're starting to suspect," she whispered to herself. She thought about the old woman who had given her the secret years ago. "It will make you successful, but it comes with a price," the woman had warned. At the time, Mama Amara hadn't cared. She was desperate to feed her children and build a better life. But now, guilt weighed heavily on her. In his room, Chidalu lay awake, thinking about what he had seen. "I need to find out what's in that clay pot," he decided. He made a plan to sneak into the kitchen the next time his mother wasn't around. At the same time, Kalu, the herbalist, was making his own plans. "There's more to this woman than meets the eye," he muttered, "and I'll uncover the truth." The next morning, Mama Amara left the house early to visit the market. Chidalu saw this as his chance. Once he was sure she was gone, he crept into the kitchen. His little sister Ada tried to follow him, but he told her to stay back. Chidalu looked around nervously, his heart pounding. He climbed onto a stool and reached for the small clay pot on the high shelf. When he opened it, he stared in shock. The thick, dark red liquid inside didn't look like anything he had seen before. It had a strange smell that made his stomach turn. "What is this?" he whispered. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside. In a panic, he closed the pot and returned it to its place. Mama Amara walked in and stopped, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here, Chidalu?" she asked sharply. "Nay, nothing, Mama," he stammered. Mama Amara looked at the shelf, then at her son. "Never touch that pot," she said sternly. "Do you hear me?" Chidalu nodded, but the fear in her voice made him even more curious. Meanwhile, Kalu, the herbalist, decided to speak to the village elders. He gathered them at the village square. "There is something strange about Mama Amara's food," he said. "I believe she is using a forbidden ingredient." The elders frowned. "What do you mean, Kalu?" asked Elder Anamdi. "I cannot say for sure yet," Kalu replied, "but her food has a power over people. It is not natural. We need to investigate before it brings trouble to the village." Some of the elders agreed, but others hesitated. "Mama Amara is a kind woman," one of the elders said. "We must not accuse her without proof." Kalu nodded. "I will find a proof," he promised. That evening, Kalu visited Mama Amara's restaurant again. This time, he stayed late, pretending to help her clean up. He watched her every move, waiting for the moment she would reach for the clay pot. Chidalu couldn't stop thinking about the clay pot, the strange smell, the dark liquid. He knew it wasn't normal. That night, As his mother prepared dinner, he decided to confront her. "Mama," he began hesitantly, standing near the door of the kitchen. "Yes, my son," she replied, stirring a pot of soup. "What's in the clay pot on the high shelf?" he asked directly, his voice trembling. Mama Amara froze. Her hands stopped moving, and for a moment, the only sound was the bubbling soup. Slowly, she turned to face him. Her eyes were filled with a mix of fear and sadness.